Hi, I'm Dr. Boyce Watkins from Your Black World, and you saw this week that LeBron James decided to do what I thought was the impossible, the unthinkable. He actually went back to Cleveland, the place where he was previously treated like a little bit like a runaway slave, but that's for another conversation. But apparently he has enough love for his hometown and for his previous situation that he's decided to go back. And there's really more insight we can gain on why LeBron did what he did, what this means, what this could mean for him in the future. So to kind of dig into this in terms of the nitty-gritty, the money, the legality, all these other things, I wanted to reach out to respected sports attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons. He's out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. He's not just a former athlete from the Oklahoma Sooners, but he has converted all of those skills into an amazing and extraordinary legal career, and he's one of the most respected attorneys in the state of Oklahoma. So I want to ask Damario, how you doing today, man?
Hey, man, I'm good, man. I appreciate you having me on today to talk about LeBron. I'm just excited to be here and looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, man. You know, I always throw a ton of accolades at you, you know, when we talk, because you really understand so many different dimensions of what these athletes go through. You understand the legal, you understand the financial, you understand the social, you understand the racial, you understand the masculinity issues because you've done so much work when it comes to fatherhood, brotherhood, manhood, etc. And that all ties together into what I think is a message that really is unlike anything else that's really out here. So when you saw that LeBron was moving back to Cleveland and how he was managing his situation, what were some of the thoughts that went through your mind as a legal expert?
Man, the first thing I thought about was chess, not checkers. LeBron understood what it meant for his legacy, and I'm not talking about his basketball legacy. And this is why I've always been such a great LeBron James fan, because he understands he's much more than a basketball player. He understood the business standpoint of going back to Cleveland and being able to eventually, man, this guy could be a governor, a senator from Ohio for going back to that city. And if he brings a championship to that town, which has been without a championship for 50 plus years, that's going to be amazing. But beyond that, and more importantly to that, the business opportunities that he's going to bring not only to the city of Cleveland, but to his brand globally. He lost a lot of love of his brand when he left and went to Miami 4 years ago, which I thought was a good move. But coming back to Cleveland, I think he really is going to rehabilitate himself to those people in the public who thought he somehow turned his back on Cleveland, which, again, I don't think he did that. He made a good business decision to 2010, and I think in 2014 he made another great business decision. I firmly believe that LeBron James is a revolutionary, groundbreaking athlete in the mode of Kurt Flood and Muhammad Ali and the Fab Five, as he's really changing the game of athletics. And I believe that anyone who wants to be an athlete, a parent of an athlete, they should study LeBron James, because he's a model business athlete businessman.
Well, you know, another person that was also an athlete businessman who did a pretty good job at it was Michael Jordan. But I will admit that I respect LeBron a lot more than I respected Jordan. Not to really dismiss or attack Jordan, but I didn't have the same passion or enthusiasm about the way Jordan led his career as I do with LeBron right now. Can you compare and contrast those two guys in terms of how they've conducted themselves as human beings, as athletes, as businessmen, etc.?
Well, I mean, I would say this. I mean, LeBron is smart because he is learning from the Michael Jordan journey. I mean, Michael Jordan was a pioneer in this era of talking about really just making your brand and your name a global icon as far as basketball players is concerned. I mean, before Michael Jordan, there was really no basketball shoe that was named after a player that got the type of notoriety that got from Nike, that Michael Jordan brought to Nike. Before Michael Jordan, those things really didn't exist, so they were kind of feeling their way through. Now, I don't know LeBron James personally. I have met Michael Jordan on 2 occasions, but I don't know him to say them as persons. But as businessmen, I'm more impressed with LeBron James, how he's able to take control of his brand. He did something extraordinary where he put around himself people that he knew and trusted to take his brand global. Now, that is not unique, because we know players all the time hire their friends and family, and many times that's a huge mistake. But what LeBron did, what was so impressive, is that he made sure that those he put around him, like Maverick Carter, who is his right-hand man, They went and worked for Nike first. Most people don't know that. Maverick Carter started as an intern at Nike. He worked his way up to different positions at Nike, and then he became and started working for LeBron James. Then LeBron James is so smart and so innovative that he creates a sports marketing company as an athlete, and it's so getting so powerful that a lot of people don't know. In 2011, with the collective bargaining agreement of the NBA, they made it illegal for players to have an equity ownership in player marketing firms. In other words, it was a LeBron James rule, because LeBron James was the only player at that time that had a firm that was representing players while he was an active athlete, which is a brilliant move. And they struck that down and said, hey, that is a conflict of interest.
Really? Wow. So it's interesting. So a player cannot own part of a company that represents other players for marketing in terms of how they promote their brands. Is that what you're saying?
Well, and what the NBA really said was that they couldn't represent those players as their agent that was representing them when they were negotiating their contracts, but also it bleeds into being on a marketing deal, because that field really has blended together. Really, most agents, they represent and negotiate contracts, and they also do the marketing deals. Now, you do have some distinction between the two in separate companies, but many times they're one and the same. And worse than that, I believe, Dr. Boyce, we're talking about LeBron James going back to Cleveland, and according to Bloomberg News, they had a story that it doubled the valuation of the Cleveland Cavaliers to over $1 billion just because he went back to Cleveland. But guess what? Again, the NBA does not allow a player to have equity ownership in the team that he plays for.
So you talked to me earlier about the idea of LeBron getting equity ownership in the Cavs. And I had thought that was the direction that you were going to go in the conversation, but it sounds to me like you're saying that that's not even allowed. So that makes me want to reflect on and reiterate or re-ask about the earlier discussion. When you talk about LeBron and eventual equity ownership in a franchise, whatever the case may be, what were your thoughts on that?
Well, I think LeBron should absolutely have an opportunity to be compensated. I mean, he bought $500 million of value to the Cleveland Cavaliers. Now, people say, well, he's already making a lot of money. They're going to pay him a max contract or something, maybe $20-25 million a year, but he bought $500 million. So let's take this to any other industry. Let's take this to Microsoft. Let's take this to Apple or Exxon or any other major corporation. They have what they call stock options, right? If you're an employee of a corporation, you can get stock options. You can also buy into stock options. Why can't NBA players or NFL players, the Major League Baseball players, we're talking about LeBron here, how come LeBron can have an opportunity to get some of that equity stake? And some people will say, well, it could be a conflict of interest. He could be controlling the team. Well, maybe they can put it off where it vests at retirement. I don't know, but I feel like an individual like LeBron, who is such a global icon, brings $500 million in value to a team, he should have the legal right to be able to be compensated fairly and equitably for that. So in other words, if he brings $500 million just by signing his name, but he only gets $25 million, he is being paid vastly lower than what he's valued.
Well, I've always argued that players in general are being underpaid. Because if you go back to 96, 97, I guess it was 97 when they had the lockout, right before that occurred, Kevin Garnett had been offered a deal. I think he was going to make $20 million a year. And this was 1997, yeah. Right? So you go, I mean, it's amazing to me that 16 years later, with all the increases in valuation in the NBA, far bigger television contracts, etc., that players are still making about the same as what Garnett was offered by the Timberwolves back in 97. Right. And I just think that kind of that should put it into context that you when you look at a guy like a LeBron James, it's easy to argue that that in a free and open market he would be making $80 to $100 million a year, or something like that. And so it's hard for people to imagine players being underpaid because they say, oh, well, they're making so much money.
Right, and they are.
But when you consider how much money that they're bringing to the table, especially certain players like LeBron, it kind of dwarfs in comparison. So, so if you were giving advice to LeBron, in terms of how to proceed forward and how to really leverage this opportunity. He's as you mentioned, he's made some good moves, right? He signed with a 2-year contract. I think that gives him a lot of options to stay if he wants, but he doesn't have to stay. And you mentioned the good things he's done in terms of managing his brand and putting a good team around him. He really is a prototype for not just how to manage yourself financially, but also how to manage yourself as a human being. I mean, he doesn't get in trouble. He's not caught up in some silly culture that's getting into bad situations. He's not going to end up in some of the unfortunate circumstances that some previous athletes have. But what advice would you give him in terms of how he can make that even better, even stronger than what it is right now?
Yeah, number one, obviously, like you said, he's been doing very well. So I don't know if he needs my advice, but if I had opportunity to sit down with LeBron and his team, first of all, I would just thank him for being first and foremost a great father and a great family man. Someone, like you said, that's not out getting in trouble, not out bringing down not only his brand but the brand of black men, because he's on a world stage like that. And I think it means a lot for him to be such a passionate and involved father to his children, a faithful husband, and I would thank him for that. And I would also say I think he should consider setting up the LeBron James University for Sports Business Management. And I think athletes from around the world should be coming and taking and enrolling in the courses and figuring out what it takes to be a world-class man, businessman, athlete, period. I think he is really setting the mold of how to do that. For instance, again, I stated that his friends are those who are managing his brand, but they have very strategic partnerships with people like Warren Buffett, John Henry, who owns the Boston Red Sox, etc. So they're not doing this on their own. They understand that they need to get help from professionals and experts. And he understood that I'm not just because we're homeboys and we grew up together and I love you, I'm not going to allow you just to represent and take over my brand. You go get some skills. You work for Nike. You work and learn how to actually do this. Then I'll bring you back on board and we'll take this thing to the next level. I think that is the way that athletes need to really consider how they're going to do their business. As you know, Dr. Boys, you've taught at Syracuse. You've seen it a lot of times, just like I have as an attorney and teaching at the University of Oklahoma. Most of these kids that are coming through, that's making it to top Division I schools and making it to the NBA, NFL, are from poor inner city households and communities. They don't have a lot of access and knowledge of how to really do business, how to really do the legal aspects of things, the financial things. And so they get themselves caught up in the web of either unscrupulous professionals or individuals in their lives who they love and trust, but just does not have the skills. I think LeBron has shown us how you can get around that, how you can make this work. And again, like I always say, he plays chess and not checkers. He's thinking for the long haul. So if I had the opportunity, I would say, LeBron, you need to package what you've done and put it in a scenario where people can come from around the world, sit, listen, learn, and emulate.
Well, I agree. What I really love about his career is that he's shown self-determination.
Yes.
He doesn't let anybody control and make his decisions for him. The Cleveland fans threw a fit when he left to go to Miami, but
they buying a lot of jerseys now, right? Because they burnt a lot, right?
Right. They trying to put those jerseys back together.
Right.
Trying to blow them out.
Right.
And I'll say that I was surprised and a little bit offended with the reaction when he first left Cleveland to go to Miami, because because I said, this guy can be anywhere in the world that he wants to be. You should feel privileged and blessed that he gave many of his best years to that city.
Right.
A lot of guys would have been playing for the Lakers or the Knicks or some big market team. They wouldn't have stayed in Cleveland. And I also respect the fact that he decided to go back despite being kind of punked and challenged by Pat Riley and some other people who somehow felt that he owed the city of Miami something. And my thinking is that, look, he gave you he took him to the championship 4 times, right?
Four times in a row.
That's insane,
Right.
So you need to just say thank you and have a good life,
Right.
I guess last question I ask you is, how did you feel about the decision? Just as a person, did it surprise you? Were you happy about it? What were your thoughts about just that decision to go to Cleveland? If you could have bet your money on where LeBron might go after he left Miami, what did you think that was going to be?
I didn't think he would go back to Cleveland just initially because I thought that maybe he enjoyed the Miami, being in Miami. Miami's a beautiful place. It's a nice place to live. But the more I thought about it, I really thought that LeBron, again, just made a great chess move. Thinking about the long haul, thinking about the equity, thinking about what he can do in the community. When you talk about the things that he wrote about in Sports Illustrated, what he wants to do for that community, I really believe LeBron James can literally be a governor, can be a U.S. senator. I think he's smart enough. I think he has a passion. I think he has the ability to connect with people beyond basketball. I think he's a strategic thinker. And so I'm happy that someone of that magnitude will want to go back to his hometown and provide much more than basketball. It's much bigger than basketball. It's like Kurt Flood. It's like Muhammad Ali. They transcended sports. And I think LeBron James does that. And he's shown himself to be a community-minded person. Think about when he first left Cleveland. He could have stayed at Cleveland. He could have stayed the man. He could have had a max contract. But he decided to be more community-minded and sacrifice a max contract to go to Miami to team up with Dwayne Wade, which Miami Heat was Dwayne Wade's team, and team up with Chris Bosh and become teammates. He didn't go there saying, I'm the man. He didn't go there demanding that you put all the attention on me. He became teammates. They were successful. And then he decided, you know what? Now I want to go back to where I'm from. I'm going to still be the most dominant basketball player in the world, but I'm going to have a platform to be able to maybe change the landscape of this entire region for generations to come. That is a model man, businessman, athlete that we need to produce more in our community. As you know, I'm writing a book, What's Plan B? How the pro sports law is destroying Black America, because we have so many of our black men who are so fixated on becoming an NFL or NBA or Major League Baseball player, and that's all they care about. I don't think LeBron James is there. I think he cares about being a great man in history, a great father, and someone who's going to change and positively impact the lives of people for generations to come. And that's why I'm a big fan of LeBron James, the person, and not so much necessarily the basketball player. He's a great basketball player, but he's a much better person.
Well, you know, he reminds you and I both, I think, of another great power forward who has retired from the NBA by the name of Etan Thomas.
Yeah.
Who wrote a book, Fatherhood: The Ultimate Challenge, and Etan was able to walk away from the financial temptations to just go along with the crowd and do what people were telling him to do, and he actually had the fortitude to do something that was good for the world, good for his community. And what I also like about LeBron's decision is that it really shows where we have to go as a community. Instead of thinking black men always have to compete with each other, LeBron said maybe we can do better if we cooperate with each other.
Exactly.
Because remember he was criticized for not trying to compete and attack and go after Wade and hate Wade and all that.
Exactly.
The old school guys were saying that's not what you're supposed to do. And
Right.
LeBron said, no, we're better when we stand together.
Yes.
And I think working together and working for the long term is far superior for a community than working individually and only working for the short term. So he might be a game changer in that regard. You agree?
I think so. And I think LeBron understands that. I think LeBron should be studied, not only from an athlete business standpoint, but studied, just like you said, from a community standpoint. If LeBron James, an individual at his level, the world's best, can say, you know what, I'm going to subordinate myself a little bit so I can go and team up with a community and my other teammates so we can have greater good. How come people in our communities across the nation and across this world can't do the same thing? We should learn from LeBron James. He's a great story. He's a great father. He's a great basketball player. And I'm glad we're able to watch this and see that he's able, like you said, take control of his story. He's not destroyed like Kurt Flood, right? Kurt Flood was destroyed. We don't even talk about Kurt Flood and what he did for athletes in general in the black community. Muhammad Ali was destroyed. He's put in prison for taking a stance against the Vietnam War. Fab Five, they were suspended and their jerseys were taken down for challenging the NCAA's exploitative, oppressive system. But LeBron James is able to learn from all of that, and he's able to continue to push himself forward, push the community forward, and he's able to prosper forward. I think he has to be studied, emulated, and celebrated.
There you go. You said it all. You said it all. Well, I want to say thank you so much, Damario, for your time. I know your time is valuable, and it's always an honor to hear from you. But also, I learned so much from talking to you. Thank you so much, brother. I appreciate it.
Hey, likewise, I appreciate it. And anybody can get at me. I'm on Twitter at Solo Speaks Truth. Facebook is Attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons, and my website is solomonsimmons.com. So I'd love to hear from any of your huge network. And man, look forward to talking to you again very, very soon.
Absolutely. Well, he said it all, so I don't have to remember all that stuff. I'm glad you recited that for me. Well, everybody, this is attorney Damario Solomon-Simmons out of Tulsa, Oklahoma. If you don't know about him, you got to get at him. He is one of the great legal minds of this country. He's my Johnny Cochran. I can say that much. So thank you so much for checking us out at Your Black World. And until we meet again, please stay strong, be blessed, and be educated. We are gone. Peace.